What's going on, everyone? This is Ballim Out once again, back at you for the first time in 2020. We're coming back to you guys. This is Sean and Nate's just with you today. But it's a couple things that have happened since the new year has began. Starting with the first trade of the season, Trae Young to the Washington Wizards, and then it's been some couple other names. Ja Morant has been linked to possibly moving on from Memphis, and then Anthony Davis. Do want to touch on that a little bit. Him and his glass body that he possibly could not be traded now. So just a couple things to talk about real fast. Before we get into the All Star break and everything like that. Let's start off with the Trae Young stuff. Trae Young, gets traded to the Washington Wizards for C.J. McCollum and Corey Kispert. Um, you know, I already gave my initial thoughts, but I guess it's just interesting that he would want to go to a rebuilding organization and not like a winning organization. To me, that just screams like you just want the money. Like, yeah, you can say I watched some of the press conference and yeah, I'm excited to play with these young guys and stuff like that. Like, yeah, you can say that because it's a PR answer, but the real answer is you wanted to get paid and they had cap space. So, I mean, fair. But yeah, so what are your thoughts on, just that move and everything that happened?
I think the most surprising thing is how quickly they were able to get it done. I feel like a trade like this with a guy like Trae Young, he's been a all-star a couple times, and I think, he's made conference finals, but I feel like when I was looking at articles, they were saying maybe they might attach some draft capital, but it's nice, I think, that they got it done quick. It's honestly kind of like a win-win for both teams, I think, just because the Hawks obviously kind of realized that he wasn't their number one guy anymore. It's kind of unfortunate how it happened just because like he got hurt and then they kind of started to pick up the pace.
Yeah.
But for the Wizards too, I think it's like, you get rid of a guy like CJ who it's not like they were going to keep him long term. He was an expiring guy. And then Kispert too, which he's going to be a good role player for Atlanta, but if anything, it adds another kind of like veteran all-star player to the Wizards team to kind of help those young guys. I think it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes for the Wizards if they try to actually win a little bit more, because I think they have a top 8 protected pick. And so it's not like they really want to win many more games. But at the same time, I think Trae, too, I think he had made it clear that he didn't want to be in Atlanta anymore. So it's nice that it's the first trade of the season. Hopefully that kind of gets the ball rolling for other teams. But yeah, it's not. I feel like if this would have happened 2 years ago when Trae was, higher value, it would have been a little bit more of a headline. But now that it's like the Wizards, like they're obviously not the team that people thought. Like people were saying he could go to LA, he could go to these other high market teams that were competing. And yeah, I think too, it's just Trae's had so many different moments in Atlanta, whether it be playing against the Knicks or any of these other series. And now it's just like, he's gone. Like that
Yeah.
culture in Atlanta is going to change now.
Yeah.
But he's a good player. He's obviously not like any help on the defensive side, I think that they want. But at the same time, he's going to hopefully be able to kind of mentor some of those younger guards that they have. Hopefully it'll help a guy like Sar kind of pick up the pace a little bit on offense. But at the end of the day, I think it is kind of a win-win for both teams. I don't think Atlanta, too, is either going to say, like, oh, now we're going to make a push for a heavy, deep playoff run. I think they'll still probably try to sell a couple more of their guys. Like Porzingis, for example, I think, only played like 3 games with Trae Young. So it was kind of like, they didn't really have to give up a lot to get him either. But it was just kind of like, I don't really know what they were thinking going into the season.
I don't think they did either.
Right, in terms of expectations. But it's a trade for sure. Like I still like Trae Young's game. He's definitely adds a lot to that Wizards offense. But yeah, just with the kind of talent they have on that team, it's not like it's going to change a lot immediately.
Right. Yeah, that's my thing, because it's like, I guess for both of these teams, it's like, okay, looking beyond like this season, okay, like it could be something. Obviously, CJ McCollum, he's got 1 year left on his deal. Trae Young, he's got 1 year left on his deal. So it's like, okay, this could possibly be a rental, for both these teams. Washington, I'd be very surprised if, it is a rental and they decide not to extend him.
Right.
But I mean, that was another thing because I was like, no trades or no picks in this trade for either
Right.
side. I was like, not even a
Which
second pick.
I'm glad Washington didn't have to give up a pick
Yeah,
because at that point it's kind of like then I feel like you're not even really winning the trade because it's like for a guy like Trae Young, yeah, you're gonna have to extend them, and then also you got all these other younger guys that you probably want to add another piece in the draft with him. So it's like the fact that they were able to keep that draft compensation, I think in the long run will probably help them. But yeah, it's Trae's. He's kind of a polarizing guy now because it's like small point guard. He obviously has skill and he could lead a playoff team, but it's like with the Wizards, that might take a couple years now until they actually
yeah,
get there.
yeah,
But we'll see. I think in the grand scheme of things, it's the Eastern Conference too. So like next year, who knows? I mean, next year it could be totally different in terms of who's there or not. But yeah, I mean, it was cool too because I feel like a trade like that normally it happens like in the middle of the night or something like that. But it was just I was just watching the games that night, and then all of a sudden Trae Young gets traded. You see him leaving the bench
yeah, yeah.
during the game, and it's like, damn, like that quick.
Yeah, no, I thought it was weird too. I was like, dang, they really did it like in the middle of the games because I thought like you'd heard the reports of Trae Young was out, CJ McCollum was out, Corey Kispert was
Right,
out, and everybody in the post game was like, oh, that's why they were sitting out and stuff like that because they got traded. And I thought it would have happened before the game started, but I'm like, all right, so it's either gonna happen tomorrow morning or
right.
late at night. And then like you said, I was sitting there watching the games working, and then I see that trade, and I'm like, oh, dang, so it did actually happen. But yeah, I mean, and just on Washington's point, like you said, they have that top 8 protected pick, so it's like, how much is Trae Young going to play? I've seen something, a couple articles that said he might not play at all this year. But then you got to
Right.
think about it, the whole rule, like the load management rule. I guess if it's a nationally televised game, you have to play, or you're going to get fined. So
Hmm.
Washington has to kind of deal with that. And also, it's like okay, if you make a trade like that, wouldn't you want him to play at least a couple
Right.
games if he's able to? It's not like Brandon Ingram. He got traded last year and he was hurt, so he wasn't able to play. But now it's like, okay, like you can at least give him. I'd say give him a couple games before the All-Star break.
Well,
Let him play
even
a
last
couple weeks
night
out. Yeah,
they played the Pelicans. Like that would have been a perfect first game for him to start. But I mean, they got their butts kicked, so it's like I I don't. They're clearly not trying to win many games still. So I think they definitely are still trying to get like a Cam Boozer or Darren Peterson or one of those top guys to Bonsa in this draft. I think that's what they're still looking at. It's a good piece for them, but clearly not anything for this season that they're trying to capitalize on.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious to see what that extension number is going to be for Trae Young. See how
Right.
many years and how much money it really they decide to give him. Because, like you
Yeah.
said, I mean, I think he's their largest salary on the cap right now, and then after that, it's everybody on rookie deals and everything. So
Right.
yeah, very interesting to see how that all pans out. And
But
then
then too, yeah. I mean, the next one you kind of mentioned it, Ja Morant. That finally came out that they are trying to work out a trade. I feel like we were talking about this a little bit earlier in the season, just because how Memphis started out.
yeah,
Now that it's actually looking like it's going to happen, I'm very interested to see what teams go after him because I definitely think he has more of a value in terms of adding draft capital and adding some other players. Like it's probably going to be a bigger trade than just like 2 players for one.
mhm.
So if Memphis too, if they're looking to offload him and even keep Jaren or even try to get rid of him too as well, like I'm interested to see what Memphis is thinking in terms of that.
Yeah, Memphis is, and like you mentioned the drafts, because I was kind of thinking about that. Once that report came out on Friday, after the Trae Young trade, I was like, okay, if Trae Young didn't go for any draft picks, where do people see Ja Morant? Because he's been, dealing with the suspensions and injuries and things like that. And
Mm-hmm.
Trae Young has had his injuries, but it's like, you talk about draft capital. Where is that draft capital at? Are you gonna give in, maybe a first round pick, maybe a second round pick, maybe it's no picks? So that is like one thing I'm interested to see. I mean, a couple teams I see off the jump. I mean, Minnesota, we've talked about that early in the season. Their need for a point guard.
Mm-hmm.
Miami, they're still looking for that star to pair with Bam Adebayo. I don't think either of like the LA teams are gonna make a push for him. I don't
Probably
really,
not. Yeah.
yeah, I don't really see any other like big market making a push for him. I
I mean,
think
maybe
honestly,
a team like Toronto could do something because I know they've been trying to. Maybe they haven't been publicly saying it, but like I've seen things about like them trying to maybe get rid of Quickly or RJ.
yeah,
So they could be in the running for it, but I think yeah, it depends on if Memphis really wants to try to get like a first round pick for him. Then it's gonna depend on what team's gonna be willing to do that.
yeah,
I mean, even a guy I saw some things about. It's a little bit different, but like Michael Porter Jr. Brooklyn's only looking maybe to get like a first round pick or something like that. So they're not even asking a whole lot. So a guy like him who's having an All Star season that could maybe dictate how other teams go after a guy like Ja.
yeah,
But I'm just glad that the trades are finally starting to heat up. Hopefully the rumor mills are swirling a little bit. I think finally get to see some of these teams because I feel like most of these teams, other than OKC, Denver, San Antonio, like Detroit, there's really only like 5 teams that are in contention right now that it looks like for a deep playoff run. So a lot of these teams I think are realizing, hey, we gotta do something now.
yeah,
But yeah, same with Ja. I mean, it's like he's had so many moments in Memphis now that it's like their whole identity is about to change again. And it's like, how many years does Memphis have to go through something like this where it's like, they had their guy, he was their guy, and now it's just like, damn, he kind of ruined it for himself on one hand, but on the same point, it's like, they fired Taylor Jenkins a couple years ago. Like you kind of saw it on the writing on the wall a little bit, like this team's
yeah,
gonna change sooner rather than later.
yeah.
But now that it's finally happening, yeah, like if he went to Minnesota and played with Ant, man, that would make the West even crazier.
I would like
But
that. I would
yeah,
like that a lot. Honestly, if you could get like a Mike Conley, maybe throw in Dante, or somebody else, and flip it for Ja.
right.
Send Mike. I mean, he's on the down end anyways. Send him to Memphis. Let him do a little retirement half of the season tour, something like that.
Yeah,
John Antho, I think that would I like that duo. I think that would be a
yeah.
dangerous duo. The thing is though, can Ja stay on the court, as far as like injuries and suspensions. And
Hmm.
like you said, like, the writing was kind of on the wall. I think, the suspension, it kind of started this whole thing, and then they traded Dylan Brooks, so that kind of started it, and then Taylor Jenkins. So it's been like domino effects kind of for Ja
Right.
Morant. I saw a report last night talking about, he's been telling players around the league that he didn't want to play for Memphis anymore, so you can kind of tell, like, I've watched a couple of Memphis games this year, and you can kind of tell, like, either he's on the bench and he's just chirping at somebody, when it's the end of the game, or, he's talking and doing his thing, when he is on the court. And he's not really, giving 100% effort. So yeah, I'm interested to see, like, one, if something does end up happening because of, if Memphis is going to want draft capital and stuff like that, and two, where he does end up going, because I feel like
Yeah.
if he's not traded at the deadline, you think they sit him for the rest of the year? I don't think they play him.
I mean, there's not really a reason to play him at that
True.
point. It's kind of like, yeah, you don't want to risk an injury or him getting suspended again, and then it's like, well, then what do you do in the off season? Because then,
Yeah.
yeah, his value's only gonna keep going down. So at this point, you got to get something done here in the next couple weeks. But yeah, it's not looking too good for the Grizzlies at this point. Sadly enough, I know that was one of the teams at the beginning of the year I thought was gonna kind of be a little better than they are. But I mean, even a guy like Gigi Jackson, who like a couple years ago he was going off, and now it's like he doesn't even play really. So I mean,
Yeah.
he's another guy who's dealing with injuries, but it's like, man, he's coming off the bench. They got KCP who they signed, and he not doing
I haven't
jack
even
shit.
heard his name all year.
Yeah, so I mean, he could be a guy that could maybe be added in a trade package with him. So
Yeah.
I mean, their best player has been Jaron, and then behind that, who? Terrence
Santi
Spencer,
Aldama.
Santi Aldama, like they just have not had a lot to look forward to this season. I mean, Edie got hurt, which didn't help him either. But yeah, we've been talking about injuries too. That this season has been kind of crazy with that. You mentioned it, AD getting hurt again. I mean,
Did you see the play? Did you see the play on where
crazy.
he got hurt at?
A man with paper skin and glass bones. Sad to see him go down, man. He was such a legend in LA. Getting traded for Luca, down bad. Goes to this sorry Mavericks team. It's just sad to see. He was supposed to be a LA lifer after that ring. Now he barely even a fringe all-star. But it is what it is, man. The NBA is a cold business, but it's just not good. He can't stay healthy. Honestly, the Mavs got to get rid of him or something. I don't know what they do with him. And at this point, I don't even know who would want him because
Yeah.
I mean, when he's on the floor, he can be good, but it's just like, dang, he cannot stay healthy.
Yeah, and I find it hilarious how Pistons fans are like, "Oh yeah, we should go get Anthony Davis." Now they're like, "Ah, nah, we don't want him." And it's like, you know, yeah, this is the
Nah,
exact reason why, because he can't. I mean, I think what's the longest he's been healthy? It has to be what the
it was
bubble, the
yeah, it had
that
to been that
year.
stretch in
Yeah,
2020 and then
yeah,
2021 a little bit. I mean, he had his days in New Orleans too, but even then it was like, man,
yeah,
he was supposed to be like a guaranteed Hall of Famer, like all-star every single year. And now just seeing the last couple years of his career been plagued with injuries is sad. It's
yeah.
sad.
Man, I
You
remember the
know,
debates that we were having, like who's the better power forward, Giannis or Anthony Davis, and
oh
back when
my
like they were
gosh,
at their
yeah.
peak, and so it's like
Yeah.
you couldn't debate because both of them were going toe to toe, and now it's just like, all right, Anthony Davis is hurt, Giannis is in Milwaukee, just rotting away. Who knows what's going on? Yeah, man, I
Yeah.
don't even.
Nah. Well, and Giannis too. I see stuff he's saying. Well, I would never request a trade. You know,
Yeah,
I'm just an employee. Like, come on now. Like, I don't get these NBA guys sometimes. They're like, my agent's talking to the team. We're trying to get a trade, and then he's all like, "Oh, nah, I'm just an
yeah,
employee. I'm here. I'm here until they get rid of me." Like, come on, Giannis. You got more power than that. I mean, he's obviously should be the most sought after trade piece this season. I think if he goes the whole year with the Bucks, man, it's offseason is going to be even crazier than it was this last year. I think with how he's been playing when he is on the court, it's like I think you had him as your MVP pick, and it's like, man,
I did.
he clearly has another level he could go to if he wanted to. Bucks, man, they just I don't know if they're trying to get too much for him or if there's just no teams that are willing to give up 4 or 5 picks for him, but they got to do something because at this point, yeah, I think even Giannis said they're like 10th, 11th seed. They're not,
Yeah, they're
playing
not
for anything
competing.
special.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I,
yeah,
I just I just like don't know like what can Milwaukee do? I mean, like your second option is Bobby Portis, Kyle Kuzma. Like you're not going to be able to do anything, right? Like yeah, you're in the East, but I mean, you can't do much. And so like yeah, Giannis does this now like, he wants to stay in Milwaukee and he's going to retire as a Buck and all this stuff, but I say give it
man,
to the summer and we're going to have these debates, once again and
I
just
know.
just gonna
Yeah,
be one random day in July where he's gonna be like, you know what? Yeah, I think I want out.
I I just he's hilarious too because it's like he's making it seem like, oh yeah, I'm just playing here. It's up to the team to decide what, but he's probably trying to get to every team at this point that
Oh, most
is a
definitely.
contender. So I would love to see him in a different uniform this season, but we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I don't even know what else is going to go on in terms of, I feel like the last couple weeks or even to start the year, we've had some up and down games. I mean, the Thunder, they're losing the Hornets by 30 almost. Like
Yeah.
their season of chasing history is done. They're not
Oh
beating the
yeah.
record.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they almost lost to the Grizzlies last night, and Ja didn't
They
even
almost
play.
lost to the Jazz two nights before that. It took Shea to make a
Yeah,
shot at the end of regulation to send it to overtime. Yeah, so it just, I mean, I don't know like what it is, if it's like fatigue or if it's like I've seen some stuff on Twitter talking about thank you Chris Finch, for finally calling out the refs about
yeah.
OKC getting calls and stuff. I mean, maybe that's something. Teams are starting to figure out the defense and how
Hmm.
to play with OKC a little bit more better. But I
Right.
mean, yeah, this like you said, this season has just been it's been interesting because like you said earlier, there's only like five contenders right now, right? With
Hmm.
like four in the West, one in the East, one or two in the East, right? Then you got Boston, who was supposed to be terrible this year. And then all of a sudden, Jalen Brown's having like an MVP caliber season. And now it's
He's going
like
crazy.
yeah, he is going nuclear right now. So now it's like, okay, if Jason Tatum does end up somehow coming back this year, Boston is all of a sudden again a threat. in the East. You know.
This, yeah. I mean, shoot, they could make a trade and even make their team even better
Yeah.
than what they already are right now. And yeah, I definitely didn't. I mean, I knew Jaylen Brown, he was going to be their first option. But I did not think that they were going to be sitting at second in the East to start the year and being as competitive as they are. I mean, Peyton Pritchard again is having another season where he looks like he could be a six man or, most improved guy again. And I think Missoula too, he knows how to coach that team so well at this point
Definitely.
that they kind of have that championship, DNA a little bit to where they know what it takes to get through the regular season. Where these other East teams, they obviously are, one day the Cavs look great, and then the next day they're losing to the Bulls or they're losing to you know, and then it's just like, man, I have no idea what's going on. The Knicks, one day they look like they're winning the Cup championship, and then they're getting blown out by the Pistons and barely scoring 90 points. So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen come playoff time, but I'm loving what I'm seeing in terms of how competitive it's been. And
Yeah.
maybe too, I think this will even kind of help going into next season because it'll show a lot of teams that can't really just go into the year thinking that you're going to automatically be a top, 5 seed. And then, I mean, Orlando, I think they were one of those teams that were like, yeah, we easily could be a top 3 team. And, health, of course, factors into it, but like they're struggling to even stay 500 at this point. So these teams, they got to have either a better roster coming into the year and a better game plan of like, we're just going to focus on our top 8 guys or whatever in this lineup. Or, I don't know what. Maybe they just got to play a little harder or something like that because
a little bit of both.
I mean, I keep seeing every night some guys, they're projected to score 25 plus and they're scoring 6. And it's like, what is going on? But yeah, the whole standings right now is kind of crazy.
It's wacky.
But it really is. I would not have expected Toronto to be doing this good either. I think after they got Brandon Ingram last year, they were like thinking, oh, he'll be a good little addition. And he's been one of their best players. But I mean, your Clippers even, they started out the year 6-17 or something like that. And now they're making their way back a little bit in the standings. They still got some work to do, but like Memphis, Portland, Golden State, it's not like they're far away from them.
No.
So, I mean, in the next month and a half, I think even the West standings could change a lot. I mean, the Lakers too. They're losing games left and right. You never really know who is going to be consistent on their team other than Luka.
Yeah.
With Reeves being out, Jokic is hurt. We didn't even talk about that. Like, what are the Nuggets going to be like the next couple months? Which I think he might only be out for like a month and a half, but still.
Yeah.
I think I saw one night they had like seven players that were like on the G League team and they beat the Sixers.
Yeah.
So it's like
Bruce Brown game.
Yeah, Bruce Brown, Jalen Pickett, like all these random guys who it's like they're the ones who are actually trying to fight for a roster spot really and like actually get minutes. But man, some of these games they're just like you think that it's gonna happen one way and it just is completely the other way. So
then you got Houston too. Like they've been up and down like all season long. They're at the 6th seed right now. They could be in the play-in, come a couple months from now. So and then you got Golden State. It's like all right, like you just seen Kerr. He's saying like, yeah, we're not the team that we used to be, and they're, one night they're going off, and then the next night it's like, all right, Steph's not playing, so Draymond's not going to play. And then Jimmy Butler, who knows what you're going to get from him. So that team is just, and then you still got the whole Jonathan Kuminga situation, which I still don't understand that doesn't even make sense to me.
Who knows if he's going to get traded?
See,
at this point,
I've seen reports that like, no, they don't want to trade him, but at the same time, they're going to keep him on the bench and just, let him basically just ride the bench for the rest of the year. And it's like, dude, like if you're not going to play him, just send him off. Obviously the relationship between him and Kuminga, him and Kerr is still like iffy. So it's like, why even keep him on the team if it's just going to continue to be like this? Like, why?
Yeah.
So you can say, oh yeah, we have a young prospect. It's like, dude,
right.
like,
who doesn't even play?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. But I don't got much else to say about what we've been seeing. I feel like at least I mean, even the Pistons, being number one in the East right now with Duran and Cade been in and out of the lineup past couple weeks. Like they got guys like Jenkins going off. They're even kind of struggling to find a consistent piece. Obviously, Cade is their number one guy. But at night to night, you never really know who's going to be that number 2 or 3 option for him sometimes. So
Yeah.
it's very very treacherous right now in these standings. But I'm loving it so far. I think this has been a very exciting season in terms of like parity wise because there's no real. I mean, start of the season, yeah, the Thunder, but now it's like, man, they're only a couple games ahead of San Antonio.
Yeah. I honestly I couldn't tell you right now who would be in the finals, who would be in like the Eastern Conference Finals, Western Conference Finals, because
Right.
it's really a toss up. Like you said, the Pistons. They're on a 3 game win streak right now, but they've been up and down. And then you got you're looking at the Magic, who is supposed to be up there, and they're all the way down to 8, and then in the West. You got Thunder and San Antonio that look like the favorites right now, but then you got Minnesota on a 4 game win streak. Like you said, you got the Clippers coming up. The Trailblazers, they're on a 5 game win streak, possibly doing something. And I think they got Dame still. So they're a Dame away really from being a top 6 seed. I mean seriously.
Yeah.
So I honestly think it's a lot to unpack right now, and if you gave me a prediction, it'd probably be wrong right
Oh
now for
yeah.
who's going to be in the finals or anything like that.
Yeah, I think across all these podcasts, shows, every single prediction I've seen by this point of the year has either been off or it's just completely changed because of how these teams have been playing. So it is going to be a crazy second half of the season for sure. But I don't got much else, man. I don't know if you wanted to touch on anything else. It's not looking good for the Lakers though. They
Uh,
they're going out sad. It looks like once again. Um, hate to see them do it to LeBron. It's
the Lakers, it's been like a tale, just 2 different sides. Like one night you're looking like, all right, Luca and LeBron, you're looking strong. And then it's next night, it's like, well, you can't, play any defense. I think having Austin Reeves hurt for the last couple of weeks has definitely been a big thing for them. Because they're trying to find a consistent second option. He was that all year, being like a 1-2 option. On LeBron, he's still easing his way back into things.
their whole team is just a wreck right now.
Yeah.
Every game I see of them, I just hate their lineup more and more.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, hopefully the Pistons keep playing how they are. But that's all I really got for now.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. Yeah. So we'll definitely keep an eye on the standings and stuff like that. Like you said, a month from now, before the All-Star break, it's going to change in both conferences. But we'll definitely, next episode have to give our All-Star breaks as we're getting, closer to All-Star
Mm-hmm.
teams, as we're getting closer to that time of year, and
Right.
everything like that. So, but yeah, that's all we got for today. And until next time, we'll catch you then.
Peace.